We are currently in the middle of the clay court season and right now we are in Madrid, but the French Open entry list has already been released for both the men and the women. Let's take a look at the ladies' entry list because there are some big names who actually have to play qualifying unless they receive a wild card. It's never easy handling the emotions, the tension, and the nerves of the first round. It's never easy, and especially when I played her a couple of months ago and I lost, so I was really looking forward to getting revenge in this case. How does Paula Badosa go from being an expected main draw certainty to suddenly watching Eala take her spot at the French Open 2026? One minute the script looked predictable, the next it flipped without warning, leaving fans confused and the tennis world buzzing. Was it rankings, politics, or a last-minute twist nobody saw coming? And more importantly, is this the start of a new power shift in women's tennis? Of course, I'm excited for the Grand Slams ahead, especially Roland Garros. I know that I will be in the main draw, so I'm very excited about that. It's my first time in the main draw, so it's a new experience and I have everything to gain. The moment the French Open entry list dropped, something did not just feel surprising, it felt almost backwards, like the tennis world had quietly rewritten its own rules overnight. And right at the center of that shift sat Paula Badosa, starring at a reality she probably did not expect to face this soon. While Eala casually stepped into a position that usually takes years of grinding, ranking points, and relentless consistency to earn. Eala is selling out stadiums whether she's playing singles or doubles in tournaments where the fan attendance wasn't that high in previous years. If I was a tournament director, I would do anything for her to be at my tournament. I'd also make sure that she's on schedule every day for both doubles and singles because then people come to watch Alex and then stay for more tennis. You can see it in the crowd numbers whether Alex is playing or not. The Filipinos are showing up for their girl and I love it. Now, here is where the story gets uncomfortable for some people and incredibly exciting for others. The main draw for French Open 2026 did not just include Eala, it gave her direct entry, which means she bypassed the brutal qualifying rounds entirely. The same rounds where experienced professionals fight for survival match after match just to earn a place among the elite. And yet somehow the young Filipina star found herself already seated at the table. Miami, you love playing in Miami, I like it. I love it especially because of the fans. There are a lot of Latino fans and Spanish fans, so I feel a little bit like playing at home and I love it honestly. They push me and they motivate me a lot. After Indian Wells, you went to Austin, made the semifinals there, picked up some nice wins. What kind of confidence did that give you coming into this event? I needed that especially for my body, to play 4 matches in a row with no day off and seeing that my body was responding day after day. After the 4th one it was tough, but I think I need to put my body into those situations. That alone raises eyebrows, but when you place that decision next to Paula Badosa's situation, it starts to feel like a plot twist nobody prepared for. Badosa is not some fatting name trying to hold on to relevance. Following the calendar is an amazing part because I now have the ranking where the calendar kind of dictates where I go. I've been to the most amazing courts and been able to play in the most amazing atmospheres. Of course, Miami, I've been able to play on Wimbledon Center Court, which is my dream, and that's been amazing, and so many more. You're probably top 2 or 3 with the most loyal fan base in the world. Wherever you go, you have some of the most amazing supporters behind you. What kind of energy does that give you as you travel around the world trying to make them proud? It gives me so much motivation. She is a former top-ranked contender, a player who has battled through injuries, climbed the rankings through sheer resilience, and built a reputation as one of the toughest competitors on tour. Her game, built on aggressive baseline power and mental grit, has carried her through some of the biggest matches in women's tennis. So when someone like that looks at the draw and sees a rising player leapfrog into a main draw spot, the reaction is not just surprise, it is a quiet kind of disbelief. The kind that does not need words to be felt. And yet, if you zoom out, the decision begins to make a different kind of sense, one that has less to do with tradition and more to do with where modern tennis is heading. Because Eala's rise has not followed the slow, predictable climb that fans are used to seeing. It has been loud, visible, and impossible to ignore. Her momentum started building months before Roland Garros even entered the conversation, particularly during the early hard-court swing where she began attracting attention that most players spend years chasing. At the Australian Open, something unusual started happening around her matches. Fans were not just showing up, they were lining up early, filling smaller courts beyond capacity, and turning what should have been routine matches into events. Social media clips showed crowds stretching across walkways, all waiting for a glimpse of a player who was not even seated. She is an inspiration for an entire nation and truly fights for every point to spread that inspiration beyond tennis. She does such a good job. She's a superstar and she handles that so well. It looks like she embraces it. She never seems to look too nervous in my opinion. I feel like she likes when the Filipino crowds swarm the court. She shows them so much love and shows the world so much love. It's nice to see a player so young and so talented handle all that pressure in such a positive way. And that is not normal. That is not typical hype. That is what happens when a player connects with audiences in a way that goes beyond rankings. And that connection only intensified as the season moved forward. By the time the tour reached the Miami Open, Eala was no longer just a curiosity. She became a major storyline. Her performance there marked a turning point, not because she suddenly became perfect, but because she became fearless. Her shot selection grew sharper, her court movement looked more confident, and her willingness to attack high-level opponents signaled a shift in mentality. It answered the one question critics always ask about rising players, which is whether they can actually compete with the elite when it matters. And suddenly the conversation changed. She was no longer described as promising, she was described as dangerous, even at Indian Wells Open where she did not dominate the entire field. She showed something arguably more important than winning, which is growth. Analysts began pointing out her improved tactical awareness, her ability to construct points rather than react to them, and her growing composure in high-pressure situations. We are in the middle of the clay court season and we're currently in Madrid, but the French Open entry list has actually come out for the men and the women. Let's go have a look at the ladies' entry list, though, because there are some big names that actually have to play qualifying unless they get a wild card. So on the women's side of things, the top 10 that are going to be involved are actually the top 10 of the rankings. So Sablenka and Goff and Swiatek will round out that top 4 for now. Of course, the seeds don't get locked in until the week before, so this could still change, but those players are all the top 4 for now. Then of course Pegula, Anisimova, Svitolina and Paulini round out the top 8. Taking a look at the top 32 though, all of this matters more than it used to because tennis is no longer judged purely by rankings and results alone. It is judged by trajectory, by influence, and by the ability to capture attention on a global scale. And this is where things become even more interesting. Modern Grand Slam tournaments are not just sporting events, they are global entertainment platforms. They need players who bring narratives, who attract diverse audiences, and who expand the reach of the sport into new markets. Eala represents something incredibly valuable in that regard. As a Filipina athlete rising on the global stage, she brings with her an entire region of passionate fans who see her as more than just a player. When someone with his experience acknowledges a young player's potential, it carries weight far beyond casual praise. And then there is Maria Sharapova, who knows exactly what it means to transcend tennis and become a global icon. Her recognition of Eala's presence, not just as an athlete, but as a personality capable of influencing culture, adds another layer to the story. Sharapova built a career that extended into fashion, business, and global branding, so when she sees that same potential in someone else, people listen. So that was not easy today, was it? That opening set was something else. Yes, it was definitely not easy. She was playing great and I was struggling to find my rhythm a little bit. I was trying to play some longer rallies to get my rhythm, but yes, I was a little bit struggling in the first set. Did you know much about her before you took to the court? Did you see much tape of her playing? Not much. I didn't know her. I knew that she was Spanish. I knew that my coach told me that she likes to hit and run around forehands. Put all of that together and the French Open's decision starts to look less like a gamble and more like a calculated move. They are not just selecting players for what they have done, they are selecting players for what they are becoming. Still, that does not make it easier for someone like Paula Badosa to accept. Because from her perspective, this is not about marketing or global reach, it is about the years of work, the battles fought on court, and the expectation that performance should remain the ultimate deciding factor. She has endured injuries that disrupted her rhythm, fought her way back into competitive form, and maintained a level of respect that few players achieve. And yet, in a single moment, the spotlight shifts. The headlines are no longer about her comeback. They are about someone else's arrival. And right now, Eala has both. She has the momentum of a player on the rise, fueled by performances that continue to capture attention, and she has the kind of global appeal that tournaments actively seek. At the same time, she is not without flaws, which makes her story even more compelling. Her season has included inconsistencies, matches where her level dropped, and moments where inexperience showed. What's her ceiling when it comes to all these different surfaces? Because we're still getting such a small sample of what we're able to see of Eala, being that it's only her second year out here on tour. She's getting more comfortable on the clay court surfaces. We're going to see her on the grass. And having more and more years out here on tour makes you feel more comfortable moving from hard courts that we just saw at Indian Wells and Miami to the clay court surface and making that transition a lot smoother than what we've seen at the start. It's not like she's gone winless. She's got a couple of wins, but there's still a lot to improve there. But instead of diminishing her appeal, those imperfections make her journey feel real, something fans can invest in, because they are not just watching a finished product, they are watching a player evolve in real time. Now the stage shifts to clay and everything changes again. Roland Garros is not forgiving. It demands patience, endurance, and a mental resilience that can break even seasoned players. Long rallies stretch into battles of willpower, and matches can turn on a single lapse in focus. For Eala, entering this environment as a main draw player changes the psychological landscape completely. She is no longer fighting just to get in, she is expected to compete. That expectation is both an opportunity and a burden. Reports suggest that her preparation has intensified with a focus on adapting her game to the unique challenges of clay courts. Movement becomes more important, shot selection more strategic, and physical conditioning absolutely critical. It builds narratives that carry through the rest of the season, influences sponsorship opportunities, and cements a player's place in the global conversation. Now imagine that happening for a player already surrounded by this level of attention. The impact would be explosive. I'm out at the 2026 Australian Open, where there were extraordinary scenes this morning, as Filipino player Eala was greeted by hundreds of Filipino fans during her practice session at the back of Melbourne Park. Eala is number 49 in the world, and she's really captivated the hearts and minds of the Filipino community here in Melbourne, after she became the first Filipino player to win a Grand Slam match at the US Open in 2025. Which brings everything back to the question that quietly hangs over this entire situation. Is this the beginning of a genuine power shift in women's tennis, where rising stars like Eala start redefining the hierarchy? Or is this simply a moment of hype that will eventually settle back into the established order? And perhaps even more intriguingly, how will players like Paula Badosa respond to this new reality where reputation alone is no longer enough to hold the spotlight? Because one thing is certain, the decision has already been made. The stage is set, and whether people agree with it or not, the future has been invited into the present. So now the only thing left to find out is whether Eala will justify the faith placed in her by delivering on the biggest clay court stage in the world, or whether the weight of expectation will reveal just how difficult it is to turn potential into legacy when the entire tennis world is watching. For Eala, that transition is happening in real time. And yet that added respect comes with an equally heavy burden because every opponent now wants to be the one who stops the momentum, the one who reminds everyone that hype does not win matches on its own. Everywhere she goes, she gets swarmed by her fans. Rising stars often face their toughest battles not against the top seeds, but against players ranked just below them. Athletes with enough experience to exploit inconsistency and enough motivation to silence the noise. This is where the French Open becomes more than just another tournament for her. It becomes a test of identity. For someone like Eala, whose aggressive instincts have fueled much of her recent success, the challenge will be finding the balance between attacking and constructing points with discipline. If she gets that balance right, she becomes incredibly difficult to handle. If she does not, the same aggression that wins her headlines can start costing her matches. Meanwhile, for Paula Badosa, this moment could quietly ignite something just as powerful, because nothing motivates a seasoned competitor more than feeling overlooked. In fact, the real tension lies in what happens when both forces collide. When the hunger of a rising star meets the pride of an established contender who refuses to fade quietly into the background. That is where tennis becomes unpredictable, where matches turn into statements, and where careers can pivot in a matter of hours. I felt great. I think the intensity was really high throughout the whole match, so I'm really happy to have been able to pull through. You were fantastic on your serve today. You won 76% of your serve points, saved 5 out of 6 break points, so you put yourself in good position. What did you do particularly well on your service games? I think that was one of the things going into the match that I really had to focus on, a good percentage of first serves. I know Anastasia's a big hitter, so I think that helped with my match today. And then there is the crowd factor, something that continues to follow Eala wherever she goes. Roland Garros is known for its passionate, sometimes unpredictable audience, and if her earlier tournaments are any indication, she will not be stepping onto quiet courts. Energy builds quickly around players who bring emotion, and Eala has already shown she can connect with fans in a way that transforms matches into experiences. It is about what she does with it, because the moment you are placed directly into the main draw of a Grand Slam, especially one as demanding as Roland Garros, expectations do not wait. They arrive immediately and they stay with you from the first serve to the final point. And somewhere in Paris, as the clay courts prepare to host another chapter of tennis history, one question continues to linger beneath all the noise. Will this be remembered as the tournament where a new star truly announced herself to the world? Or the moment the sport reminded everyone just how ruthless the climb to the top can be when potential finally meets reality?